And we are live. Moneyline Monaco, week 3 in the NFL. Thank you for joining me on the Moneyline Monaco pod. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review wherever you get your podcast. We are live streaming on Moneyline Monaco TikTok, where all the good beats, bad beats, and then some lie. Couple of takes out there as well. If you do follow me across the board, a lot of drama this week across sports. I'm all over Cal Raleigh to win the AL MVP. I gave it out in early July at 15-1 on New York TV. And here we are, back and forth in an Aaron Judge 1-2 dance. Also made my debut on Natty TV, CBS Sports. Shout out Katie Mox, good friend of mine, on and off the air. Hit a over 4-1 WNBA playoff SGP parlay. Gotta love it. Locked in. Make sure to follow me for all picks. We are not just dancing in the NFL, but speaking of NFL, 3-2 start, 2-3 week 2, 2-1 in the last 3 primetime games, all against the spread, of course. Only way to dance. I'm due, and I'm here to give you my 5 best bets for week 3, and I am absolutely locked in. I think we're prime for a 4-1 run. And this has been a very interesting couple of weeks in the NFL season. I want to shout out Evan Abrams, director of research at the Action Network, one of the best in the business, and follow all of his written work at giving you insights and trends and just kind of laying the table for you, setting it on what we've seen the first 2 weeks. And bear in mind, we're off the third best overall public season since 1980, when we were all negative something years old. Well, NFL closing favorites this year through 2 weeks of 4 points or more, 12-0 straight up this season, 64-7, mind you, since week 13 of last year. On the same thought, favorites of 6 points or more, 47-4 straight up. It's really hard to put into your betting noggin, because we know Danny Ocean and the boys going after Terry Benedict are not going after a town. We're the public, on the public side, who often leans with favorites and does the easy thing, not the hard thing, is sitting here cashing out 12-0 straight up of favorites of 4 or more. Now we're asleep off of the fish plus 11.5. And I gave it out on my Moneyline Monaco Instagram. You want to not relax for 60 minutes? Take the dog on the road. This, though, is a real trend that I don't know whether it continues or not, but it makes you sit here and almost second guess yourself on what dogs and what situational spots do become value. Now, as we sit across the board here, a couple of teams undefeated, of course, only 2 weeks in, and against the spread. And I got a couple of plays here this week where we are selling high and buying low. I am not buying the double Costanza dip. I'm buying the crypto dip. And speaking of which, we're getting right into it. And a game that is really hard to wrap your head around, because this team could not look better, is the Los Angeles Chargers on their 3rd consecutive dance in the AFC West. Oh, where the West was won. They are at home, which, as you know, I'm a recovering San Diego Chargers fan. You know where I stand if you follow me. It is very hard to wrap your arms around this club if you're from San Diego. But Jimmy Harbaugh, year 2 Harbaugh, crouched and leaning forward. Him and Pete Carroll was like a lean forward standoff on that Monday night. Now, we went 1-1 against the spread on Monday night. And typically, if you know Raiders Chargers, you would never lay the 3.5 on the road with the old version of the Chargers, Brandon Staley Chargers, among other coaches that have laid flat. But this LA Chargers team, they look unstoppable. They look like you can't get in the way of Justin Herbert and Madison Beer, the celebrity couple you didn't think you needed to know. But let's just call it what it is. When a team like this, who's notorious for a bumper sticker called Chargers Are Gonna Charger, are hosting, and I'm telling you, I've been to too many Chargers AFC West games, let alone at SoFi. When you take a bird's eye view, this is not home field. All right. This is not Mile High. This is certainly not Vegas. And it ain't Arrowhead, Bubs. When you sit back and realize it's going to be a sea of orange in Southern California, a sea of orange, you have to realize at an 0-2 against the spread, Sean Payton's spot versus a 2-0 against the spread and straight up Jimmy Harbaugh LA Chargers. We're going to do the difficult thing, and we're going to take the points and the Denver Broncos on the road at +3, and we're likely going to cash a beautiful ticket. Now, optics-wise, you have to start out with the human being element of this. You send the Chargers to Brazil. Then you have them come back, go on the road again on a Monday night. So now it's a short week, back-to-back road, plus international travel versus a Snickers-hangry Denver team that's, let's not forget, with our guy Nick and our guy Pat, two staple pieces on the defense. This is a top 10 defense from last year. It's also, per PFF, a top 10 offensive line. Now, one thing the Broncos aren't doing this season that they did last year was protect the football. They're -3 in turnover differential, and that is right now bottom 5 in the NFL. You got the Chargers, excellent on both sides of the football. If you go look at the Herbert numbers under Harbaugh, he just does not make many mistakes. But if you know Chargers Broncos football, just like you know Chargers Chiefs football often, and even Chargers Raiders, it is very rare, very rarely a Hogwarts Gryffindor 2-0 sweep. And I'm telling you, a Broncos team 0-2 against the spread who gifted Indiana Jones and the Colts a win. They're up 2 scores. They had them in their back pocket, and then they just fell apart. And I got a big bone to pick with Bo Nix. Father coached him in high school. Journeyman. Dude can rent a car. He's barely been in the league for a cup of New York coffee. All things to say, sitting there chirping it at Sean Payton like he's a Madden 95, and it drove me ballistic. If there's one thing chewing each other out can do off a ridiculous loss you never should have had, is hopefully button it up. Old business approach. Old business practices. And if you remind yourself that Bo Nix was 11-3 against the spread in his first 14 spots in this league, and the Chargers, obviously, who have beaten this Broncos team 2 straight against the spread and straight up, well, late stump the Schwab. Go ask yourself the last time they've done 3 straight. You got to go back to me in college, 2011. You have to go back to. Now, Sean Payton has just not been good, whether it's the Saints or the Broncos in the first 2 weeks of the calendar year. He's 12-24 against the spread in the first 2 weeks. Having said that, 12-5 against the spread in his career in week 3s, even better in week 4s. But look, prime time games, this is all trends, but it's also understanding what the AFC West is, and it is the 405 freeway at 5:30. It's going to be crowded. I'm telling you, Khalil Mack's in an arm sleeve for this dance, an arm sleeve. But you go prime time Chargers, week 1, week 2, since they realigned the divisions in 2002. Teams playing consecutive night games in the first 6 weeks of the regular season. 1-7 against the spread since 2023. This is a trap spot. I'm telling you right now, it is a absolute trap spot. Can we also take a step back and remind ourselves the Chiefs aren't very good right now? The Raiders are dealing with Tom Brady breaking Wedding Crashers rule number 6 and drawing attention to himself in a negative way, and aren't very good right now. Well, the team, of all honesty, that I would back in the AFC West this week, that is a must-win, cannot have the luxury of starting out 0-3 against the spread, it would be the Denver Broncos. Now, the Denver Broncos did not look great in week 1 against the Titans. Did not look good at all in certain instances in week 2 in Indy. but they also held a Colts team to 5 field goals. They did not stop them, but they should have won the game. So without going too far into the weeds on it, you're selling high off a Chargers team. And I was on the Chargers, -3.5 if you follow me on social. Didn't make a video, but gave the pick. -3.5 on the road. There's just no way you're doing it. Now you come back to base camp and you're laying 3 in a spot where you're really not getting what 3/4 of this NFL is, which is home field advantage. It's going to be orange crush all over that stadium. It's going to look like the cactus cooler color. Pick any part of that stadium. I'm telling you, I lived in LA for 7 years. I'm a San Diego kid. I've seen 3 sweatshirts, 3 LA Chargers sweatshirts on a human being in my life. Advantage Denver Broncos. They have the same infrastructure as this LA Chargers team, but they are the more desperate team. And that often checks out in Vegas. Give me the Denver Broncos +3 at the second team in LA because they always will be. All right. Here's another one that I have to do. And this is just honestly plug your schnoz spot because Eagles at home -3, and I did nab it on the Caesars New York Sportsbook. There's 3.5s everywhere, but this is why on a show that right now is not sponsored with a sportsbook, we line shop. It's the only shopping I do. I don't grocery shop. I don't retail shop. I don't shop. All right. But I line shop like a gentleman. And I already nibbled and nabbed Eagles -3. I'm telling you right now, you better pray McVay and Stafford come out of a freaking cannon on the road because you're asking a Southern California team to go to the East Coast out of their time zone back-to-back weeks. Look, the Rams have just taken care of business and what the schedule has given them. Good, not great. But guess who also has? Philly. AJ Brown's read more book pages than he has receptions on the first 2 weeks. Everybody trying to make smoke where there is no smoke to be had with the Philadelphia Eagles. Do you realize how hard Jalen Hurts is to beat at Lincoln Financial Field? Let me read you this, all right? He's 27-3 straight up as a home favorite in his career. 27-3. The only game they've even lost in the last over 15 is when Hurts went out in the first quarter. Secondarily, home favorites under Sirianni. When they get a lead, pray if you like the Rams, and I could not like the Rams less this week. When Philly teams at home get a lead by just a touchdown, against teams above 500, Sirianni is undefeated. 17-0, 14-3 against the number. Also, leading at any point, halftime, home favorite on, 27-2 straight up, 19-8-2 against the spread. So Philly even jumps on them at all because they haven't woken up from a 1 o'clock start on an East Coast, West Coast body clock. Something to put in your gambling coffee. Also, what does Philly do that often 3/4 of this NFL does? They don't beat themselves. Here they are again, top 3 in turnover differential, just surgical. Jalen Hurts is with the rock. But you have to think, Matthew Stafford, who's never beaten the Philadelphia Eagles in a Rams uniform, by the way, never beat them, is sitting here and just 9-14 against the spread after losing to a team in a previous matchup. If Stafford's exposed, he's often exposed again. Jalen Hurts is undefeated at home against teams above 500 when he is a favorite. Let me remind you, the worst spot you could possibly put this Philadelphia Eagles team in is a tush-push 5-yard penalty. That's it. That's it. Yes, almost the Rams went to Philly and stole a playoff game we'll never forget. The reality is, this to me is just one of those instances where you have to think the better overall team at home in a cozy spot is going to just take care of business. Now, this obviously could be a situation where we see 3.5 come back up. It's a field goal game and you cover. All right, well, we're on the push because I'm coaching you to go to the Caesar Sportsbook to ink -3 right now as we speak. But under, to put a button on it, McVay and Stafford as a duo, when they're favorites, they show up and they show out. They're 32-9. When they're dogs, they're 9-16 straight up. They're not winning this game. Who goes back to back as California backwards hat cool kids and wins 2 games on the East Coast in back-to-back weeks? I'm telling you right now, advantage Philadelphia Eagles across the board in this play. Give me the Eagles. Fly, fly to start our program. Broncos +3, Philly -3 lands us in a spot where I don't even know what to say except pray. But I cannot, under any circumstances, fade the Pittsburgh Steelers off a loss with one of the worst special teams plays I've seen since Laces Aldan and Ace Ventura. Caleb Johnson should arguably go to the practice squad after such an atrocity. I mean, he literally lost them the game. I'm staring because I line shop on live betting all day long. I'm staring at a Broadway intermission Seahawks +7.5 against the Steelers. The Steelers were controlling the tempo. They were winning the trenches. They were playing serviceable defense, and they were reminding us why the Vikings moved off Sam Darnold. And then you watched one of the worst plays in the history of this season. A special teams play that, if we're calling it what it is, racked up 14 points in 2 possessions for the Seahawks, and it was curtains. Well, what are we backing? A Tomlin defense that if they start out 0-3 against the spread, it'll be the first time since 2013, since the iPhone 2. 2013. I mean, how can you possibly play worse if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers defense? Little bit of psychology here. When the Steelers put up 20 points or more, when the Steelers just ink that Justin Fields number, since 2019, under Tomlin, they're 44-11 straight up. 44-11. They're also 42-13 against the spread since 2019. This is not a completely healthy New England Patriots team. Honestly, we're also kind of selling off of them. We don't really know what they are. They don't have the Mike Vrabel defense and dog and chutzpah yet that you're typically used to seeing in Tennessee under Vrabel. Yet they won a game very unconventional to how Patriots teams of the past would win ball games. A shootout against an offensive team. I mean, Miami should have won that game, didn't win that game. And here we are now coming back to middle ground and saying a team that shouldn't have won last week that did versus a team that should have won last week and didn't. And it's a -1.5 point spread. And Rodgers, who hasn't been the problem at all in the Mr. Rogers neighborhood, all we're asking him to do is do what I just told you. Ink 20 points, baby. He can do that against this Patriots team with 5 tugs to start the season with his eyes closed. This dude's got all the arm talent still in his 40s you could possibly ask. But I'm going to have to sit here and remind you, in spreads of 4 or less under Tomlin on the road, it is a great spot to back. 14-5 straight up. Now, we already know Tomlin is a historic top 3 cover. Well, under 1.5, reminding you they haven't started 0-3 against the spread since 2013 is one of my favorite bets on the board, despite feeling very nervous about it. I just have to think in a Mike Tomlin mindset, Mike versus Mike, and we ain't talking old school ESPN radio. This to me is a must win for the infrastructure of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And what have we really seen from New England on the offensive side, except for what I've seen is big explosive plays here and there that are often a defensive issue versus the team they're playing. I mean, is there a worse defense in the NFL right now than Bradley Chubb's Miami Dolphins? I mean, they look so SoCal soft over there in the 305 as they sit here 0-3 on a non-feel good Friday. You better hope the Miami Heat show up and show out, or it's going to be a Tampa Bay rayless October. I digress. I have no reason to believe in a must-win pressure spot everybody holds themselves accountable in Steelers country. Give me the Steelers -1.5. Now, here is my favorite play of the entire week. Just tweeted it out. Dream spot. Dream spot. You're making a case for 2, maybe 3 points of line movement in a Texans game against the Jags, who again still have to remind us that they're the Jags. Look, they couldn't beat Jake Browning in a crisis with a turf toe Burrow situation and nothing but momentum on their side. The Jags are going to jag just like the Chargers are going to Charger this week. But remind yourself, as we lost on the Texans -2.5 on a video on Moneyline Monica, this is a great time to purchase a dip again on a team that is not only not covered yet, they have to win a football game. They're 0-3 against the spread and 0-3 straight up if they don't win this game. But Texans +1.5, you think we're getting Texans +1.5 if they beat the Bucs? No, we're not, Costanza. We're laying road points. And you don't want to lay road points like we just did in the previous pick unless you have conviction. All right? But what do we know about the AFC South? Underdogs are the best cover in this division, albeit 1.5 here, depending on where you shop for the Texans across any division. Underdogs, another great Evan Abrams stat, since 2019, or excuse me, since last year, we're 11-1 against the spread and 45-27 since 2019. It's not just a theme of 1 year or 2, but it is a theme under, most importantly, CJ Stroud and Trevor Lawrence. Whoever's getting points in these head-to-heads, and you also have Titans and Colts in this one. Titans as a home dog, by the way. You have to take it seriously. Now, CJ's better as an underdog than he is a cover. He's also 4-1 against the spread on a short week, if you're curious about that. But this is an optics play. Nobody wants and believes in the Houston Texans. Look, this is a Baker Mayfield top 5 offense last year, people. This is a top 5 offense. And it was nothing after a very electric first quarter for the entire remainder of the game. I mean, we got by the old school Todd Bowles Madden mode and letting Nick Chubb get in the end zone. But if we're calling it what it is, Texans are not an 0-2 back-to-back AFC South Division champ team. They're just better than that. You're going to get their best effort. You're going to get a must-win effort. And if you want one more trend, Trevor Lawrence, the prince that was not promised, has started 12 home games as either a favorite or a dog of 2 or less, prevalent here. He's 3-9 against the spread in those games. Oh, by the way, 0-3 against the Texans, not covering. This to me is a top 10 defense and a fringe top 10 offense who was a little banged up last week and just got slept. They got slept in a way that, as you know, bumper pool lane-esque example, you bang off of what you do week to week, and it often comes back to you. I'm telling you right now, I'm slamming the Houston Texans, plus 110 on the money line. I nabbed it on FanDuel, but you can go plus 1.5 If you think the Jags pull it out 24-23, feel good Friday. Houston Texans play as we wrap up the program. And I hope I'm not walking into it, but I refuse to go to sleep tonight backing an Arizona Cardinals team that is objects and mirror are not as they appear. This team continues to be the most difficult team to pinpoint under the man that is well below 6 foot and arguably barely in the 5'9" club, that is Kyler Murray. Don't think he's a particularly good leader. Thinks he's, I think, a lot better than he is. I think it's always a question mark. Is Arizona well coached? And who have they played in the first 2 weeks of the season? Some of the worst teams in the National Football League. And what do we know Shanahan to be in the division? And what do we know Shanahan to be rocking with backup quarterbacks? And yes, we are backing Mac Jones off a win and a cover on the road where, do I dare say, he was borderline surgical? But here's the thing. K1 at 5'8.5" is not good against the NFC West. He's 8-20. He's 8-20 against the Seahawks, against the Niners, and against the Rams. All right. Here's another one. When they're coming off a straight up win before they go back into the NFC West Lions den to catch an L, they're 4-9. They've lost 6 straight in this spot. This is not a great football team. Meanwhile, good football teams that are well coached with great schemes and solid overall just approach to game plans week to week can eke out games. This is a great spot for a Niners team who's at home, cozy, comfortable, back in Santa Clara, going against who they know to be mediocre. I look at this Niners team, banged up on both sides, having to go with a backup, feeling like obviously they left food on the table from last year, let alone multiple years. And it's just a great start to the season over there. Now, they have to get out to a hot start in this game because they're actually very bad in the second half spread. They're actually 3-16 ATS in second halves. And we seen it again really last week where they came in, coached up, dialed in, and put Mac in spots. But look, if McCaffrey's going to give you McCaffrey numbers, down a Kittle, down a wide receiver in Ayuk, really two. But then you saw what Jawan Jennings did in that spot. Touchdown to the crib. How you feeling, New Orleans? I'll take Gumbo to go back to California. I just think this is, again, a hierarchy, college campus, cafeteria play as you hear me speak in these references. And guess who's at arguably the bottom of the division? Fugazi and everybody. The Arizona, not well coached, not particularly great staffed, and a guy who's a non-leader at quarterback. I don't know how they continue to go with the 5'8" man. They're going to go 7-8, 8-9, and all the way through a playoff-less season this year. But I'll tell you what Shanahan is with backups on his squad. He's still solid and serviceable. He's 27-23 covering with backup quarterbacks on the Niners. Here's a better one for you. When the backup is listed as a favorite in this instance, 18-9 straight up, 15-12 ATS. This moves to 3.5. We're off it. I don't co-sign, but I'll take -3. And again, we are maybe walking into it because could be a letdown spot just in the idea that this is a 3-0 against the spread Niners team if they do win. But we also have to remember what Goodell did. He gave the Giants the worst schedule in the NFL, but he gave the Niners the easiest. So how could you go against Spencer Rattler and feel like you emptied the tank last week? You just didn't. So Mac Jones, who we don't really know what to make of Mac Jones. But I will say this. They were looking at Mac Jones in San Francisco before they pivoted off of. And he clearly has kind of that Kirk Cousins poor man type style, which Shanahan's love. Mike loved it. Kyle loved it. This is why it can work for a couple of weeks. I got to go down with the San Francisco 49ers -3 as we end the 5-pick program. So, in conclusion, we are going to take the Philadelphia Eagles -3. We're going to take the Denver Broncos +3. We're going to take the Monaco money line on the Houston Texans. I'm taking them on the money line, but you could take it at +1.5 if you'd like on the road at Jacksonville. We're laying the 1.5 with the Steelers on the road at New England. And we're coming back to California, ordering some In-N-Out, cashing tickets, and watching the Niners -3. I'm due for a 4-1. I absolutely love these plays. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, review on the Moneyline Monaco podcast. We appreciate you very much. And as always, don't forget to hug your mothers. Ta-ta real smooth.